Welcome to the Blackwell archives. I remember the day Thomas disappeared as if the building itself wanted me to notice something others couldn't see. He had been my colleague for nearly 3 years, always punctual, always calm, with an uncanny ability to make the spreadsheets balance before anyone else even finished entering data. The office had grown quiet lately, open plan and sterile, white fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, computers humming in low syncopation, and yet the desks around me felt emptier than they should have been. It started subtly, the kind of shift that makes you doubt your own perception. Thomas would be at his desk in the morning, a coffee cup half full, typing methodically, and by lunch he would be gone, claiming a meeting, which seemed odd but not alarming. The next day the pattern repeated, but with small anomalies. His chair would be turned slightly, the coffee cup always wiped clean, the keyboard still warm but with no fingerprints that matched his. His computer accounted for him as if he were still present. Files opened, emails sent, but no one saw him moving between departments. HR didn't notice. The building's security cameras captured nothing unusual, or at least nothing visible on playback. I mentioned it casually to another colleague and was met with blank stares, puzzled expressions. They had no idea who I was talking about. Thomas. There was no Thomas, never had been. The name meant nothing to them. Yet the emails persisted, sent from his account with timestamps aligning perfectly with office hours. The files he had worked on continued to update, formulas recalculated, documents rearranged. Even the IT department insisted he was still logged in, yet no one physically present could account for him. I started noticing oddities in small details. His mug would appear in the break room even though no one had seen him enter. An empty chair in a conference room sometimes had the imprint of a body when no one had been there. Printers spit out reports he supposedly had requested. Each day became a struggle to reconcile what I saw with what everyone else insisted did not exist. As I delved further into his emails and calendar entries, it became apparent that he was executing projects, attending meetings, sending directives, things he physically could not have done. The messages contained subtle anomalies, phrases that were slightly off, requests that made no sense in context, references to people I didn't know, places I couldn't find on any map. The more I tried to verify his existence, the less concrete it became. I began marking time obsessively, recording every incident, noting the hours he logged in, and comparing them to the building's security footage, which only showed empty corridors or shadows moving too quickly to be human. At night, the office took on a different character. Fluorescent lights flickered, computers entered sleep mode and awoke on their own, files opened and closed without command. I often worked late, attempting to make sense of the schedules, the messages, the anomalies in the logs. The air was thick, almost viscous, charged with the kind of tension that makes silence scream. Occasionally, I would swear I saw him in the reflections of glass doors or computer screens. Just a flicker, the corner of his jacket, a hand disappearing behind a pillar. Each time I looked closer, he vanished, leaving only the evidence of his digital persistence. The pattern escalated over weeks. Systems began sending automated alerts, notifying me of Thomas's presence in rooms that didn't exist on the floor plan, activating printers and projectors that no one could access. Emails appeared with subject lines I didn't recognize, signed simply as Thomas, containing cryptic instructions or warnings I could not decipher. I tried showing this to others. Screenshots, printouts, live demonstrations. They looked at me with concern or annoyance. "There is no Thomas," they said. "You must be confused." But when I turned back to my screen after each meeting, there it was. An open email from Thomas, a new calendar invite, a document in progress. I began to avoid the break room and the conference rooms where he appeared most often. My colleagues laughed at my obsession, claiming the building was dull and I was imagining things. I started noticing odd temporal anomalies as well. Meetings supposedly attended by Thomas hours ago appeared as new invites in my calendar. Deadlines shifted inexplicably. Project files reverted to older versions without any log of editing. It felt as if time itself bent around his absence. Sleep became erratic. I dreamed of him moving through walls, touching keyboards with hands that left no fingerprints, speaking in tones I could hear in my skull but not through my ears. Once, in a dream, I approached him in the darkened hallway. His face was always blurred, featureless, yet I knew it was him. He pointed at my desk and whispered a warning I could not comprehend. I woke to find my monitor on, a new email from him open, subject line, empty, the body containing only the same symbols I had seen in my dreams. Gradually, I realized I could no longer share the building with him in any ordinary way. It was not a ghost in the traditional sense. He was woven into the architecture, the network, the systems themselves. He existed as a presence that persisted where no human could, guiding the building, moving through networks, shaping events, yet invisible to all others. In desperation, I attempted to confront him directly. I stayed late one night, surrounded by the hum of servers and fluorescent lights, following the faint impression of movement through glass and shadow. I spoke his name aloud. There was no response, yet the systems around me began to act. Monitors flickered on with his emails, printers churned, lights pulsed with a rhythm I could feel in my chest. The air thickened, pressing against my lungs, and I realized the office itself had become an extension of him. To leave was impossible. Every exit led me back to the same lobby, the same elevator, the same corridors that bent as though to keep me enclosed. The human mind could not rationalize what was occurring. Every attempt to contact authorities or IT was futile. The logs all insisted he existed, yet no one else could perceive him. Weeks blended into months. I kept meticulous records of every anomaly, every flicker of shadow, every email that appeared to come from nowhere. The building became a labyrinth, and Thomas remained the center. Eventually, I stopped sleeping in my apartment. I started living at the office, watching the empty desks, tracing the lines of code, following the endless threads of activity that constituted his existence. His presence was everywhere, yet nowhere tangible. I found old blueprints of the building and realized spaces that were supposed to be sealed or non-existent corresponded to rooms and passages that seemed to exist only when I entered, guided by him. The company archives contained files he had never touched but which now bore his annotations. My colleagues eventually stopped asking about my presence. They avoided me, whispered when I passed, unsure why I lingered. The world outside the building seemed unaffected, as if it were a separate reality entirely, and in that silence, Thomas persisted, orchestrating everything, threading the digital and physical together in ways beyond comprehension. One day, I found a note on my desk, written in the margins of a printout. "You're beginning to see me." I realized then that I was no longer observing. I had become part of the anomaly. Every email I sent, every file I opened, every meeting I attended, however futile, fed the presence. I was implicated in the architecture of his persistence. The building was not haunted by a spirit of vengeance or unrest. It was a network, a construct, and Thomas was its node, eternal and self-sustaining. The thought chilled me more than fear itself. There was no escape, no intervention, no casual forgetting. I could leave the building physically, but the system of presence followed in emails, calendars, files, logs, reminders, subtle nudges in the digital hum that told me he was always there, and I understood that others had always been unable to perceive him because they were never meant to. Only someone like me, someone who noticed the gaps, could witness his persistence. The office continued to function, empty and alive, fluorescent lights buzzing, computers humming, yet Thomas remained at the center of it all, an invisible anchor, threading reality with a presence that refused absence, waiting for another observer, another witness, another node to notice. And in that understanding, I finally realized he was everywhere and nowhere, yet I could not turn away, could not disconnect, could not stop seeing him in every reflection, every empty chair, every logged-in system, every line of code. Thomas existed where no one else could reach, and now, by noticing him, I existed in the same way.